Each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your hosts, Keith Marney.
Out of practice.
Mike and Deglio.
Yeah. Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu.
Trademark.
Out of practice.
Guys, it's not a background. It's a basement. It's my real basement.
Out of practice.
Keith went from trapped in a shitty apartment in Astoria to trapped in a basement?
Out of practice.
And welcome to the Out of Practice podcast, a weekly podcast that talks mostly about ourselves, but occasionally about David E. Kelley's award-winning series, The Practice. This week we are talking about Season 5, Episode 15, entitled Awakenings. We have come back from our crossover. How's it going, Degs?
I'm not taking up much time at all, other than our crossover episode has screwed up all of my numerical listings of episodes.
I know,
Last
and
week
I
was
changed it.
115, This week is 515. Everything's confusing.
Well, this week is 516 of Oops and 515 of The Practice. That's what we did for the other crossovers.
Yeah, that's fine, whatever. But let's get to the nitty-gritty. This has all been it's been 100 episodes leading up to Keith buying a house. The house is bought. The house is inhabited. The boxes are moved. It was a saga. Can you sum up the saga and where you are right now for our listeners who listen to this podcast for this cutting?
I'm sure. I'm sure everybody is on the edge of their seats. No, we are moved. We moved this week from our place in Queens to our new house in New Jersey. We got delayed by a day. We were literally had the truck packed on Tuesday and we're about to walk out the door to go to the closing and move. And they're like, oh yeah, we need another day. And we melted down and said a lot of bad words. But we were able to, because we did so many things stupidly, including getting a truck that was way too small. But we did do a smart thing, and that is get the truck for 3 days. Which allowed us to be able to push it off a day and not have it all melt down. But we got in the house, we closed, we met the previous owners who were very, very nice. They couldn't have been nicer. And the house was in pristine condition. We're here. I'm delighted, exhausted. We moved ourselves. And partially to save, the $3,000 more it would have cost us. And partly because of COVID. So Jillian and I literally physically moved all of our possessions, which I had no idea how much stuff we had because we were in like a 1.5 bedroom apartment in Queens, but we've also had 20 years of experience of stuff compression. To get just per square inch, the amount of crap that we had. So we filled up the 10-foot truck absurdly and then had to take 4 carloads back and forth in our tiny little car, which that was by far the worst part because we had to go back and forth over the bridge. From door to door from here to the old place is about an hour without traffic, which it's actually, as the crow flies, it's really not far at all, but because you've got to get around the island. Anyway, but we did it. Jillian unloaded most of the truck herself because I was fighting with Comcast because she had a shift coming up in an hour. She had to work. And so all of my neighbors think I'm a monster already because as I was shouting at Comcast on the phone, she unloaded her truck herself. I mean, most of our stuff. So We are still completely in boxes and it's chaotic, but it's awesome. And as you can see behind me here, we have the basement as I found it. And the guy who was here had converted it into like a movie theater feel, which is why red rum everywhere. The red rum is going to be leaving us. But he did a really nice job. It's very detailed. It's not like what I'm going to eventually stay with, but he put so much effort into it. So, and now I apparently chose by happenstance the exact same fire on YouTube that Mike did.
Well, we're slowly merging to the same person, it appears. Yeah, I have to say I have a mixed feeling of incredible joy for you guys and a little bit of envy, because everything I want to do in my apartment here, I talk myself out of because I realize it is temporary, and hopefully we'll never have to move again. I know that I have one more in me at least, so But it's like you said, we hired professional movers, and I thought for sure when I did the calculations in my head and we were doing the math calculations, I was like, bing, bang, boom, they'll be in and out loading my stuff in an hour, 2 hours tops.
Right.
And them taking 4 hours to get everything out of my apartment made me realize, oh yeah, we got a lot of shit. So
it's amazing what you can put into a tiny New York apartment. Like if you're working at it, if you're like really trying. I mean, just our books. Oh my God.
I'm going to say that let's wait until after Inauguration Day to really dissect what's happening right now, because utter chaos is taking place or continuing to take place. So I had some thoughts, but I feel like we should save the thoughts and focus on the practice. And it's not lost on me or any of our listeners that 21 years later, you're now watching the practice in your basement yet again. So
I know. I am so delighted. I mean, that having a basement has been a dream of mine, and to like mac it out and make it awesome. And I'm really excited to do that. I have a drill now. Anyway, so I'm so proud of myself. I got a tiny little baby drill.
A Dremel.
All right.
A Dremel.
A drill.
Well, a Dremel is a baby drill, right? Well, that's one of the brands of it.
Oh, is it? It's funny for a guy who grew up on a farm and is like fairly handy. The 20 years in New York has just destroyed all of my handiness. So I'm going to have to learn it all.
You know, I've still never mowed a lawn.
Have you not? How could you possibly not have mowed a lawn?
So here's a little This Day in the Basement for you. It's so bizarre. So two really crazy things. So a little just like psychological context. My father, we've talked a little bit about it, but he had like a really crazy upbringing, left his house really young, had to fend for himself, had a whole family, things went down, we were like his second chance at family, right? My mom was his second wife, we're his second group of children. I'm going to leave it there so that we can get into that another time. But they were really overprotective of us in different ways. My brother, the firstborn, this was a story I never believed, but it turns out it is true. They were so afraid of my brother getting hurt that for the first few years of his life, he wasn't even allowed to run. He literally had to pretend he was the Bionic Man and run in slow motion. That is a real thing. Okay, so that's the baseline. Now, there was a rumor that our next door neighbors, where we lived, that one of the children had cut off half their foot with the lawnmower. Now, that sounds like an urban myth, an urban legend that everyone hears about somebody in their neighborhood, right? But my dad bought it, hook, line, and sinker. And so we weren't allowed to own a lawnmower. We weren't allowed to mow the lawn. We just got out of that entirely, which was really nice. But it also meant that we never got a trampoline. We never got pogo sticks. We never got a pool. We barely were allowed to use rollerblades. So it was weird. But
that's very interesting.
What do you talk? Why did I bring that up? Oh yes,
lawns.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to do it. I mean, we were out in the yard today, and I'm like, I need to rake these leaves tomorrow, and I'm like, hell yeah. I'm sure that will leave us soon.
I think it's gonna. The one thing I'm interested is like the first time something breaks or like a pipe leaks or something, and you can't just call the landlord, and you're like, oh shit, this is my problem now.
Well, we do have that. We had, there was crazy rain one night, and there was just a tiny couple of droplets down in the basement here, and we're not 100% convinced it came from the wall, or we might have just spilled something, but now we're like super paranoid about it, and so I don't know. Okay, that'll be a thing I have to deal with if it happens again. But it didn't happen last night, so
well, here's hoping there's a vaccine that we actually can have at some point, and we can come visit and start that ball.
Oh God, I can't wait. Like I literally can't wait. They left the fire pit in the back, so
yeah. Oh, now I'm super psyched.
We can like literally like sit around the fire and do some marshmallows and cocktails. Like I can't.
I suppose we could do that with masks on too. Well, we'll see.
Outdoors. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean.
We won't
as soon
be
as it's not crazy cold. No. Well, you're not getting in our house. Fuck you. But the
not even the best of times.
Not even the best, please. No. I literally can't wait. Someday we'll have to do an episode in person.
Yeah, we haven't done that.
We have never done an episode in person. It changes the audio quality, but we definitely could do.
Oh yeah, we could figure it out. The audio quality, what people have come to expect.
Yeah.
Speaking of audio quality, we want to hear the quality of the audio of things you have to say to us in a little segment we like to call
Filings and subpoenas.
It worked.
Filings and subpoenas.
We used mind bullets.
It's the fire meld.
Filings and subpoenas.
Yeah, it's true. Somehow we have coordinated fake fires on our televisions in the background. All right. Anyway, so filings and subpoenas. We heard from Jorge, who wrote, love the new version of the song, referring to, of course, to the alternate version of Massachusetts Welcome Back to the Practice, which will never be played again. If you want to hear it, you have to go onto that episode. No, we'll probably play it. He says, it came on just as train delays were announced. He lives in New York City. So I'm sure a few New Yorkers wondered what the hell I was so happy about. So I'm delighted to hear that. I have had that happen so many times, cackling like an idiot on a sad subway train. So I'm delighted to hear that. Also, our good friend and two founding sponsors today, Leanne Hart, wrote on the YouTubes, said, hey, I'm in the jury. Don't come for me. Everyone else, leave them a review. I think we were bitching about people not joining the jury and leaving us a rating and review. But she says, everyone else, leave a review. It doesn't take that long, and it will help them expand their listenership. Thank you, Leanne. We are never coming for you. Yes, so please join the jury. And you know what? While we're talking about it, let us tell you how you can communicate with us.
Oh, yeah.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Out of Practice Podcast. You can email us directly at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out our blog at outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. Now, if you want to do as Leanne tells you to do, as you should, you can leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other service. Just let us know. We will happily read it, good, bad, or ugly, and welcome you to the jury. Okay, so we have the people have spoken.
Wait,
I hope everyone.
I got another one.
Oh,
I got another one.
Do you? Okay.
Well, sort of. Speaking of founding sponsors, we also have a CEO, and CEO. So I had mentioned, I forget why Leanne Wrights came up. I think she might have had something funny on Instagram or something, and I was able to decipher from where she was that she's a season behind. She's on like season 4, episode 19 of our podcast.
Okay.
You know, because people are busy and have lives and cannot possibly keep up with the dearth of content we provide.
We refuse to give everybody a break, including ourselves.
Dearth is not the word I wanted to use there. The onslaught of there you go, is what I wanted to say. Anyway,
Dirge.
CEO Jen just, realized that she's pretty behind too. And she kept saying it to me. She's like, oh, I'm X amount of episodes behind. To which I replied, okay, it's okay. It's all right. And
like, you're the CEO. You got to sign the checks, not actually eat the product.
Yeah, somebody's got to, like, do something that isn't a podcast for no one. And that's you, honey. Anyway, she happened to receive AirPods for Christmas, which changed her life. And now she just listens to podcasts all day, all the time. And I asked her what she was listening to, and she says, I'm catching up. And I reminded her she doesn't have to listen to our podcast. No. It's not part of her vows. But she decided that she's really into it, and she loves listening to the practice. She's really invested, and hearing her listen to the episodes reminded me of how crazy the season's been so far. So she's like,
this season has been bananas.
What's going to happen with Hinks? She's like, whose head is in the fridge? She's asking all the questions that I was asking, and then she's like, well, what's going to happen with Rebecca? And then I listened to her listen to the bombing portion of that one episode in real time, and it was awesome. So now she's caught up, and she also is a fan of the Bobby is an asshole bumper, because she agreed that Bobby's been kind of an asshole. So
Bobby has definitely been an asshole. So
she also firmly believed that he was going to be found guilty, and that he was just going to be written off the show because he was in federal prison for murder.
Or they would just like cut. He'd be the C story every episode, and he's like getting
just Bobby eating soggy fries in prison.
Well, yeah. So she just now, does she watch the episodes as well, or is her entire experience what we're doing?
Yes,
well, I truly hope that Hulu didn't hear that. Well, that is awesome. All right. Well, let us continue forward. Oh, now I think I'm a little too big in my shot. I'm going to zoom out. How's that? That's better.
That's great.
What's that?
I said it's great.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, you guys, you get to hear everything.
So we celebrating episode 100, or this is it? Just being together as a family is our celebration.
Mike, I moved.
I love how the assumption is, if we're doing anything special, Keith would have prepared it, because I sure did.
Of course. I know you didn't. I have moved all of my earthly possessions.
Now, for the record, I want to let people know that all I said was, dude, I recommend movers, and I recommend if you're going to do it yourself, get a big enough truck, because you don't want to have to go back. And you disregarded both of those pieces of advice.
Every piece of advice you gave me, I completely disregarded. That's right. Yeah, I mean, I made all of the rookie mistakes on my 78th move. Because because Jill and I were talking about how many different moves we had done while living in New York, and how many different apartments, and it's craziness. All right.
Last point I wanted to make.
Yes.
Speaking of money, I sort of did rough calculations of my whole time in New York, never having to pay for water, because pay for water out here, and you didn't pay for heat or water in all of my time in New York City because of
that's how it works.
No less than about $11,000 to $12,000 was saved.
Really?
In just water bills.
Yeah, because we have our bills set up. I have no idea what water costs. I don't know how sad that's going to be. We'll find out.
It's not insignificant.
First time home buyers, when you're 40, you don't know a lot of things you should.
All right, my bad. Next segue.
Okay, well, it is time to hop back into the time machine. Back to a simpler time in 2001, specifically February 18th, 2001, when the practice was on. And we have the eternal question, Mike, what was going on?
This day in the basement.
Keith. I think I mentioned last week that I got dumped. I got broken up with.
Oh, yes.
And
yes, you did.
I tend to, let's say, passionately overreact whenever I get dumped, which turned out to be fairly frequent in my life.
I'm familiar with this.
I get very dark, and I write a lot of very sad songs, and I do a lot of just obsessive emailing. And thankfully, I've changed email addresses since then, so those have all been lost. And
bummer.
I do recall, and it's coming up this summer, so we're going to miss it, so I'll mention it now. My ultimate thing I did here was, you'll recall a certain song I wrote for a certain person, and then I reused that song, right?
Yes. Great story.
Well, not only was the song reused, but it was also used in an emotional, I'm going to call it a quid pro quo, but an emotional, well, here's what I did. This said person, my girlfriend at the time, good friend now, you know, was pretty confident she wanted to break up with me and, you know, made the right call for her life. And I wouldn't accept those results. And I kept thinking, as some do, that I could convince her that she had made an error.
Yes.
And so we kept in touch and we kind of like, you know, maybe hooked up here and there, you know, over the next few times. But early in the summer coming up, I got invited to play at what they call Concert Under the Stars, which is like a local gathering where everybody brings their picnic chairs to like the community center, and they bring in bands and acts and some cool stuff. And I got asked to be an opening act for Jeffrey Gaines or something like that. Anyway, so I did it. Cool. And I made sure to invite her, and she said she'd come, and she's in the crowd. And of course, my closing number, Keith, I played the song, and I was like, I'm sure I said something uber cheesy, like, I hope that someone out there listening, blah, 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 in front of all, like, you know, a couple hundred people. I definitely tried to emotionally and musically manipulate this person. And, you know, it worked for like, you know, probably 2 more months. We did it. And then
Did it really?
It did. And then
you got her back with a song.
I did.
Wow, dude.
And I'm almost embarrassed to announce how we officially broke up. And we'll get there, though. I'll tell that story a different time.
I assume you're going to play us a cut of the song.
Have I never played it? No, I played the chorus. I did it live.
You played it. Yeah, you did it live. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a recording somewhere. I will dig up.
More.
I will dig up a recording and maybe it's...
You know, we tagged last episode with one of my songs.
Sure
I think it's only fair that we tagged
but we tagged it with a good new one, not an old... I'll see if I can find it.
It worked! You got 2 more months of a girlfriend with the 2001 version of a dick pic.
Better yet, I got a lifelong friend, Keith. A lifelong friend. Let's go to you. Back in that basement, what were you doing in the Eastman basement?
Yes, well, actually, I found some photos of what I was doing.
Sure did.
I sure did. And this was, I was doing, as part of our class work, we did a couple of scenes from West Side Story. It just as like the little black box deal. And there's chubby me doing Officer Krupke and then doing the balcony scene.
That's not chubby.
You
look healthy.
Oh, no. Healthy. I had a dear friend of mine say to me in all sincerity, and I think it's exactly right. She's like, Keith, you know, you're not fat. You just look like a guy who eats cheese. And I think that's completely accurate. And I do eat cheese.
This was a college production or like a student?
It wasn't even a production. It was just like we did like scenes or whatever. It was not a thing, but my folks did come to it. It was part of the trip that we had pictures from a while ago. But what I remember about the performance is cracking in the Tony section. I forget exactly what line it was, but I totally cracked on the high note, and I was mortified, which I still am. It is the type of like personal shame that I take, and that makes me too afraid to sing live. So, whatever.
You know, things change though, Keith, because later on you're going to hear me sing something, and it's a little less than in tune, but I shrugged my shoulders and decided I didn't want to do it 17 times like you probably do on all your bumpers. I set myself a 15-minute timer and I plowed ahead.
Yeah,
you live and learn, buddy.
On the bumpers, no, well, that's not true. It really depends on which bumper. Some of the bumpers I literally just like shat out in 6 minutes before the episode started. But some of them, it depends on how much I like the bumper, how vain I am about the vocals on it. So there you go. You just, figure out which ones I'm talking about yourselves. All right, folks, it is time to talk about
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Okay, well, I can tell you that the cover of the Burlington Free Press talked about police hunt Vermont boys in New Hampshire killings, which is not good. There's a lot of murder stories in Vermont at this point. The #1 hit was Stutter by Joe featuring Mystical.
I've never heard this song in my life.
I have never once in my life until today. The top movie was Hannibal in its second week of domination. Thank you very much, lady on YouTube. All right.
It's time for Sportsball.
The Boston Bruins lost a squeaker in Raleigh to the Hurricanes 5-4. The Bruins got goals from Allison, Guerin, Rolston, McLaren, but Rod Brindamore, currently head coach of the Hurricanes, led his team to victory. The next night, the Philadelphia Flyers dispatched the same Hurricanes 4-0 in Philly with goals from Recchi, Todd Fedoruk, and 2 from Keith Brimo. There it is. Got all the words out.
That was nice, buddy. So, Keith, there's no weather this week, but we do have something even more special.
Oh, is it time? Is it time to debut?
It's time.
Oh, here it is, folks.
Back in time. True crime.
Wait, is that you?
It is. It is indeed.
Holy shit!
It's like 6 of me.
That's fantastic.
I finally used the old FP10 for something.
Oh, that's cool. Wait, you have an FP10?
Yeah, you made me buy it.
Roland it? Oh, that was that piano. Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I got confused because I have an FP2, but it's an FP7.
Wait, I think it's the FP10 I bought.
I don't.
God damn it.
I know. I talked you into a Roland. Whatever.
Well,
blah, blah, blah.
Yes, it's a lot of synthesizer sounds that I just picked and then hit some buttons.
This might be the most boring episode we've ever done.
No, it is not. Play it one more time so that I can segue into the thing.
Oh yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's a fantastic bumper. I love it.
Back in time.
Pitch shift. On February 18th, 2001, Special Agent Robert Hassan drove to Foxstone Park in Virginia to make a dead drop. See, he'd been working for the CIA, tasked with compiling a database of Soviet and Russian intelligence for over 20 years. Yet, on this night, Keith, he was a little bit nervous. For weeks, his car radio was making noises as though it was bugged. Now, 2 agents had already been arrested and proven to be moles working against the United States, and there were rumors of a 3rd. But this here was just a routine drop, so he continued on. He signaled to his contacts that he'd be leaving a package by placing a piece of white tape on a park sign to denote the location. When he walked to a wooden footbridge over a creek with a sealed garbage bag filled with top-secret documents and taped it beneath the bridge. That's when several men ran to him, grabbed him. But he wasn't being kidnapped by Russian spies. No. He was being arrested by the FBI. Finally, he faced the agents calmly and said, "What's up?" Because CIA agent Robert Hassan was tired. He had been selling top secrets to the KGB for nearly as long as he'd been working for the USA. He had put the lives of countless agents and citizens at risk by selling U.S. intelligence documents to the Soviet Union and Russia for over a 22-year period. All for $1.5 million in cash and diamonds. To avoid the death penalty of espionage and treason, he pleaded guilty to 14 counts of simple espionage in the United States. And on May 10th, 3 days before the season 5 finale of The Practice aired, he was given 15 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He currently resides at ADX Florence, a federal supermax prison in Colorado, where he sits in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day.
Whoa.
And that's the story
brutal.
of Robert Hassan.
Wow. So had they made a movie about it? It feels very ripe for movieing.
I don't know, but a tip of the hat to founding sponsor Jorge Navoa for sending me that story.
Thank you, Jorge. That was awesome. That's fascinating. I think we should start a screenplay on that, because that's really interesting. And although I do think, I mean, yes, of course, espionage is a serious crime, and you should be locked up for it. Solitary confinement, I believe, is torture. So,
well, before we move on from that, I alluded to it earlier. There's a lot of political machinations taking place right now and posturing that we haven't seen in 100 years.
Yeah.
And I'll reserve my full oratorio on it. However,
ooh, would you do an oratorio about it?
However,
I really like that idea. Hold on. Here, let's,
here we go.
Here we go.
Once you become a senator or a member of the House, you must stay quiet as a mouse. But on occasion, when you want to make headlines, you do something treasonous and try to discount the votes of millions. Well, that went about as well as we could have expected.
You know, you did amazing. I got all fakakta, but you did great. Well done.
It got very, very close to call J.G. Wentworth 8776 now. Yeah, you know.
Thank you for the oratorio.
In response, people are throwing around the word treason, and it's I think maybe a little hyperbolic. However, let's not forget that sedition and treason is quite the offense.
Yeah, they don't fuck around with that.
I think the death penalty is still on the table for a lot of that.
Oh, for treason, yeah. No, it's one of the few federal ones, definitely. Okay.
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
It's time to talk about the damn episode!
Okay, folks, we have finally gotten to the episode. We are talking about The Practice Season 5, Episode 15, Awakenings. It was written by David E. Kelley and Lucas Reiter, who last wrote on Friends and Ex-Lovers. It was directed by first-time director Charles McClelland, and this was actually his first time ever directing. He actually had this episode and 2 episodes of Royal Pains. That was all he ever directed. However, he was an editor. And so he edited 43 episodes of The Practice, a ton of Blue Bloods, Instinct, Las Vegas, and also edited the pilot of Ally McBeal. So certainly had a strong David E. Kelley connection. Which leaves us with only one important thing to do. It is time to take a big swing and ask.
What is that supposed to mean?
What's your problem?
Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
It's a good question, Jimmy. We might never know.
Yeah.
So, before I watched the Previously On, I fully intended to predict that this entire episode would be a fantasy episode in which Rebecca, on her journey to awaken from her coma, would have some sort of like episode in her head. It would be a chance for them to really explore some crazy shit.
That would be fun.
Of her psyche. However, though we do revisit the bombing in the Previously On, we also see discussion of Ellenor being pregnant. We see a recap of Lucy's rape counselor escapades. Well, escapades is the wrong word. The vocabulary never seemed so important. The trials and tribulations
her hijinks
of her first hoot nanny, as they. So Awakenings, I do think we're going to spend a lot of time with Rebecca here, but also I'm going to predict that. Oh man, we got to work Cameron in somehow.
Big swing, man. Let's get a big swing.
Okay, so the father of Cameron's baby.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's a big swing, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. The father of Cameron's baby is in trouble, Keith.
Okay.
He is accused of murder, and he has tracked down
an old friend,
the mother of his sperm donation, in order for them to help him. That's my big swing.
Ooh, a good murder sperm story. I love it.
A spermer. Murder. A murder. I'll work on it. I'll workshop it.
Do we need an oratorio on sperm?
No, it's just going to be a commercial for J.G. Wentworth, let's be honest.
Okay. Well, folks, it is
and at the end of the episode, Rebecca will come too.
Yeah, hopefully.
And hopefully we find out whether she would have wanted the blood donation or not. I guess she didn't get it anyway, so she's okay.
No, yeah, she didn't get it.
What a waste of court proceeding.
Yeah, right? That's a whole bunch. Well, let's find out by clicking over to your podcasting service of choice. If you are watching on YouTube, and if you're not, you're probably confused why we're talking about the basement so much. And let us talk about this episode.
And we are back, baby.
Let's hand out some awards, but first, we have everyone's favorite segment.
Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show.
Oh, Ellenor is pissed because that guy from Married with Children wants her baby. Well, not entirely. He just wants it some of the time. And she says, no, we signed a contract. And Jimmy's like, yo, I'm on your team, even though he hasn't been on her team all the time. And there's some great acting that takes place. And guess what? Ellenor keeps her baby. We go by the contract like Mike said should have happened in the first place. Meanwhile, Rebecca had a baby. No, she didn't. She actually just got wheeled to maternity for no absolute reason. They made it a comedy beat. She was funny, but I don't think the beat was funny. And Bobby showed us Bobby Jr., and something else happened.
All right.
Oh, and, my God. There was a little kid was raped. But that's a to be continued.
All right. Mike had 30 seconds to remember 2 out of the 3 storylines of this week.
They love they love a dangling Chad. They love to dangle a Chad.
Well, that's why we want it. We have to have a reason to come back next week.
That's fair.
And here's why everyone here keeps coming back every week. It's an award show. An award show we like to call...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present...
Oopsie.
The Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the Oopsies?
Well, Jackie, they're a fake award show that begins every week with the eternal question, who is this week's most valuable? Yes, indeed.
I mean, I think we can agree that Jimmy Berluti, he did his homework. He kept his emotions in check. He was a good litigator and a good friend to Ellenor Frutt And so I award my OOPSY Award to Jimmy Barliti.
Yeah, I think there certainly is something to be said for fake Dan Quayle, Penny Johnson-Gerald. I thought she did a really good job articulating that kind of retrograde point of view. But yeah, no, Jimmy crushed it. Good friend, good lawyer, got it done. And that's a big deal for Ellenor. So good job, Jimmy. And next up, it is time for...
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
Oh, wait. I have a drumstick.
Oh, this whole time.
I have an actual drumstick right here, which has been... It was one of the drumsticks they used in on Rock of Ages.
Oh, cool.
On the Broadway, but it had been previously holding up a plant. now it's here.
You know, I've been to a couple of opening night parties and a couple of just like regular parties with Keith, and that's the most dancing you'll ever see us do in tandem.
Oh, absolutely. It's only taken us 100 episodes to get the choreography down.
Which draws many parallels to our, I can't wait for them to see your choreo in Titanic.
No, I negotiated for Final Cut.
You have. Oh, you have. But that negotiation doesn't really pertain when we get to the Season 5 OOPSY Awards. Anyway, you know what? Oh, man, there's a lot I really want to say here. Best guest actor. Maybe we could do a splitty. I do think we should reward both the people's names I don't know, but the judge, who I think deserves an oopsie for this performance. He was really good judging, even though it was
Richard McGonigal. Yeah,
it wasn't as scene chewy or as dynamic a role as we see some of our other, Linda Hunt's or your Kittlesons. But it was, it's a really realistic portrayal of a judge who's weighing both sides of a really difficult case. And I thought he did a great job. Now, I don't want to take anything away from whom I think had a bigger part, which is
Ted McGinley.
But I'm going to give it to
Richard McGonigal.
See,
Dookie.
we've really developed Dookie.
Yes, I know Mike's code for I have no fucking clue what this guy's name is. Please rescue me. And today, because I was a vocab dick, I have decided to participate and help you out.
So I'm going to give mine to Dookie McGonigal.
Richard McGonigal. Okay, yeah. I thought he was great. And I think I want to, of course, tip my hat to Cassidy Yates, Penny Johnson-Gerald. But for me, I thought Ted McGinley really did an excellent job in sort of a tough role to play, because you're sort of a good guy, you're sort of a bad guy, you're sort of a douchebag, you're sort of I don't know what your deal is, but it was very clear what he brought to the character was the clear sense that his character really cared about this, that whatever he was, whyever he was doing it, he was doing it from an emotionally connected place. And I thought he did a really good job with that. Did a lot of nonverbal acting. So congratulations to Dookie McGonigal and Ted McGinley. Next up, this one's gonna be obvious.
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
I don't know, obvious. I think there are two obvious choices.
Okay.
But because I think Michael Badalucca was so good. He was
great.
However, I mean, it's like Frasier and Ali. And at the end of the day, Cameron is Ali in this particular circumstance. So Cameron Manheim, I think, had to once again show that range. Whereas she had a straight man in Badalucco who was had to show the emotional, toe the emotional straight line. She had to show us those ups and downs, fear, anger, defiance. She didn't even cry at the end. Look,
she cried a lot at the end, but
we joke a lot about like tears win it, right? But for me, in all art, it's when you can see somebody at the break of crying, the welling, and they're so close, but then they pull it back. That's where I'm like, because I know how difficult that is, and how that's actually how we are in life. Most of the time, we have to hold it back, and I think Cameron showed an insane example of that today in the courtroom before the ruling went down. So anyway, in long story long, Cameron Manheim.
Well, I agree with you in terms of like the acting technique. In real life, we're not trying to show our emotions. And so as an actor, you're doing something so unnatural. You are trying to show something that the character does not. It's like playing drunk, right? If you're going to play drunk, nobody who's drunk wants to be drunk. So the best way to play drunk is to try not to be drunk, is to try to hide the fact that you're drunk. And the same thing with a lot of times with these emotional things, so where if you can play, if you're good enough to fight the emotion as opposed to try to hold it back, but it's overwhelming you, as opposed to let me try and muster up a tear, that sort of a deal. That's really where you get truly fine acting, because you're not projecting an emotion, you are feeling it, and you're actually doing what the character is, which is feeling it and trying to hide it. So Cameron, come on.
But that close that Badalucco
Jimmy did
delivered.
Badalucco was great in this episode too. You want to know who wasn't great in this episode, but still gets an award anyway?
The Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
Keith emailed me at just a hair too late, so I couldn't get it up. But I'll put it up here in post. That's Crossing Over Tom Brady, which is funny. You know what? You still kept it sort of esoteric and vague, which I really appreciate.
No.
It's much like our podcast and our talent. It's esoteric and vague.
Vague. Well, the vague part, definitely.
This week goes to But I'm Not Pregnant, Tom Brady.
Nice. Because we've had pregnant Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. But this is not pregnant.
It's him exclaiming, "But I'm not pregnant," Tom Brady.
Which is remarkable, because he has been pregnant Tom Brady. He is also, last week, he delivered a baby, Tom Brady. But now he's not pregnant.
Right. I want to see how you visualize somebody assumes he's pregnant, but he needs to exclaim that he's not pregnant. I'm interested.
Not pregnant.
I'm trying to now give you some challenges, because you've proven yourself very good.
I have so much time.
Yes.
All right.
You know what I could have gone with?
It is time to announce.
Wait, what?
I was going to say, you know what I should have gone with is Tom Brady fixing the potential leak in Keith's basement. That's a step too far.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Too soon.
It's time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
There comes a time where I think I mentioned it, and I won't. Like I said, the episode suffers a little bit for me because of where we are. We've progressed, I think, a bit in the past 20 years on how we view and how the law views custody and parental rights. And so it felt a little out of place. It felt like it shouldn't have gone to a full kind of hearing, but in the end, it got where I thought it was going. However, and I also have to ding at points, the Rebecca beat just felt, handled excellently by the cast, because the main cast played their sort of incredulity about where is Rebecca great. and Rebecca played the comedy beats great, but it still felt out of place to me. So the acting saves it there. I thought that the performances in the Ellenor case were just exquisite. Some of the best, I think, across the board of the season, I would go as far as to say. From Michael, from Cameron, from our guest actors to the judge, everybody it was a masterclass. And the C case, I'm interested to see where it goes. I mean, I think we've set some really cool chess pieces up. We have, we want to protect this little girl. We want to protect her innocence as much as we can, and her safety, especially with this man living in their building. So we've set the table well. For me, and also shout out to the direction. The direction, like you mentioned, was excellent. The editing was excellent. The lighting was excellent. Hulu's presentation was excellent. And thus, that covers up a couple of the holes. And like I said, we are going to have a different rating slightly because I judge it, like I said, viewing today. I'm not judging it like it would have been judged. I would have judged. Long story short, I thought it was an excellent episode. Maybe not the most exciting, but an excellent dramatic episode of The Practice with a weird comedy beat, which loses, I think, 0.5 spare tire for me. So I'm going to give it 8.15 spare tires.
Yeah. It's so funny. I've been...
Because I think it's a 9 if the Rebecca beat was handled better, if something more interesting happened with Rebecca.
Interesting. I watched it this last night and then again now, and I've sort of been torn about this episode because we're just
looking at my face. We're just looking
we sure
at
are.
Face.
I was just it's fine. I ain't that pretty. You're right. It's not the most exciting episode, and it's a little bit rescued by the actors for me. I mean, Cameron's story is rescued by Cameron. And the tonal inconsistency of the Rebecca story over the course of this episode, for sure, because we set up with like, oh, fuck, something is horribly wrong going with Rebecca. We had a bit of the fake out with the kidney thing, but we all took it seriously. It was like, oh, we're going to have a really like dangerous situation. Everyone's treating it that way. And then it becomes this like weird toss-off comedic beat, which was true within the episode, but it was also true within the arc of the last 2 episodes, where we had this very serious, dramatic, scary episode about Rebecca last week that, again, finishes with ambiguity as to what happened medically, and then she just wakes up, and it's fine, and how funny and how hilarious. It was... The A to B to C there felt kind of weird to me. The story they're setting up for next week, that's a really dicey. It's just really tough to tell a story like that, and it feels. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I like obviously these things happen, with somebody that young, and it's so serious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like it feels a little bit tentative the way they're telling the story, but I guess I can't really judge it till we get to the end of the storyline. So and everything you said about the direction, the lighting, it was beautifully shot, it was beautifully done. I don't think I liked it quite as much as you did. There were elements that I did, but I'm going to give it a 7.43.
Get those calculators handy.
Right. Look, we have to break some ties, Mike. We have to break some ties.
You're right. Before we move on, I want to point out, because I keep forgetting to do it in the episodes, and it went so well with the Disney one. The eyeball, clearly, it's the bloodshot eyeball. So I want to make sure we leave time at the end of the episodes to reveal the Easter egg.
All right. So that'll, after the oopsies, we will do the reveal of the Easter egg.
And Mike will be in charge of doing something in post that, like, I have to bring up his head, and I'll do something.
Nice. Well, that'll be like his eyeballs flying out. Now, that would have been exciting. All right. Well, folks, you have gotten through another episode of the Out of Practice podcast. If you would like to tell us what you thought and communicate with us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Out of Practice Podcast. You can email us directly, outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com, or check out our blog, outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. You can do us a giant favor and join the jury. Do what Leanne wrote and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other service. Just let us know. It really helps. This episode was brought to you by generous donations from Leanne Wrights, Cloud Lover 69, Jorge Navoa, and Jennifer Massanova.
If you would like to be one of them and have your name on that fancy slide and force Keith to once again make another Photoshop, you can do so by donating once a month or one time only, or not at all. You can find the links to do any of those 3 things in our show notes, as well as anything else I promised and have to remember to put into the show notes. You know what else you can do? Just tell your friends, hey, you know what? I know you don't want to even watch the practice, but you should listen to this podcast because you'll be surprised. Keith, if you would like to avoid an ugly, ugly eye like that, do not look directly into the laser sounds.
Laser sounds.